This is the cry, the cry of war. We stand, we bleed, we pray, no more. Heroes rise and heroes fall. But the echoes conquer all. Tattered flags wave in the wind.
In April 1945, the Thousand-Year Reich was ending in its 12th year. The war that had begun with German armies marching triumphantly into Poland and France was now ending with foreign armies marching into the rubble of Berlin. To understand the Battle of Berlin, you have to understand that this was no longer a conventional military engagement. Strategy had largely ceased to matter. Logistics had collapsed. What remained was a collision between an unstoppable force and a fanatical object. From the east came the Red Army. Marshal Zhukov brought with him a force of biblical proportions, 2.5 million men, over 6,000 tanks, and 40,000 artillery pieces. They were driven not just by orders, but by a deep, burning desire for revenge for the destruction of their own motherland. Facing them was the ghost of an army. The Wehrmacht had been bled dry. The final offensive began on April 16th at the Seelow Heights, the last natural defensive line before the city. Zhukov didn't just knock on the door, he kicked it down. The opening artillery barrage was so intense that the shockwaves were reportedly felt in the suburbs of Berlin, 40 miles away. It was here that we see the sheer industrial scale of the Soviet advance. They used searchlights-140 of them aimed at the German lines to blind the defenders during a night attack. While the tactic had mixed results, the message was clear. There was no hiding from what was coming. By April 20th, Hitler's 56th birthday, Soviet artillery was within range of the city center. As the Nazi leadership celebrated in the bunker, shells began to rain down on the streets above. The German perimeter collapsed. The remnants of the Ninth Army were encircled in the forest south of the city, leaving Berlin itself to be defended by a garrison that existed mostly on paper. By April 23rd, the Soviets had entered the city proper. And here, the nature of the war changed again. Tanks like the massive IS-2 Joseph Stalin and the nimble T-34 ruled the open fields. But in the narrow, rubble-choked streets of Berlin, they were vulnerable. The Germans, lacking heavy anti-tank guns, turned to a cheap, disposable weapon, the Panzerfaust. A simple metal tube with a shaped charge warhead. It could burn through virtually any armor, but it had an effective range of only 30 to 60 meters. To use it, you had to be close. You had to be brave. Or you had to be too young to understand the danger. This is the defining tragedy of the battle. The defense of Berlin relied heavily on the Hitler Youth. We are talking about teenagers, and in many cases, children as young as 12 or 13, armed with weapons bigger than they were, sent to stop heavy tanks. The Soviets responded with brutal pragmatism. They welded bed springs and wire mesh to the sides of their tanks to pre-detonate the warheads. They learned to clear streets with flamethrowers and submachine guns, advancing block by bloody block. As the noose tightened around the government district sector, Citadel, a strange historical irony emerged. Some of the fiercest defenders of the German capital weren't German at all. The remnants of the SS Division Charlemagne, French volunteers, and Nordland Scandinavians fought a desperate last stand near the Reich Chancellery. They fought with the fury of men who knew they had no homes to return to. To the Soviets, they were traitors. To the Allies, they were criminals. Their only option was to die in Berlin. Meanwhile, the massive Flak Towers concrete fortresses designed to shoot down bombers turned their heavy anti-aircraft guns downward. The Zuflag Tower became a stubborn island of resistance, blasting Soviet tanks with 128mm shells until the ammunition finally ran out. The symbolic climax came at the Reichstag. Though the building had little strategic value, it hadn't been used for parliament since the fire of 1933. Stalin wanted it. It was the symbol of the beast. The fighting for the Reichstag was savage. Room-to-room combat fought in smoke-filled hallways and shattered assembly halls. On April 30th, as Soviet soldiers fought their way to the roof to hoist the red flag, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his bunker just a few hundred meters away. 2 days later, on May 2nd, the garrison commander, General Weidling, ordered a surrender. Suddenly, the gun stopped. After weeks of deafening noise, a terrifying silence fell over the city. Berlin, once the jewel of Europe, was a sea of ruins. The war in Europe had effectively ended. The Thousand-Year Reich had lasted 12 years and 4 months. And in its wake, it left a continent that would be divided for the next half-century.
But the echoes conquer all. Tattered flags wave in the haze. The sun is lost in smoke and blaze. Still burns in us all.